sun is numb, the Keurig's clean. Your dog is dead, it's a Ponzi screen. Ponzi screen, Ponzi screen, because it's just something to do.
Wait, why can't I say sexy? Just to clarify, is it?
It's just like it's like Peggy Hill speaking Spanish. It's like me lamo. It just doesn't make
It's because you're saying it's because I'm too sexy. That's why.
No, it's
You're too attractive.
Okay,
to me.
okay.
I just trimmed my beard, and so if you're looking at the Zoom call, that must be. It's
you
just
did trim your beard right after you finished doing a psyop with all of the fireworks that you've been setting off. David, has it been you who set off the fireworks? Has it been you?
It is. I believe the fireworks are being set off by agent provocateurs personally to keep people up at night so that they are more drowsy during the day when they should be marching and possibly destroying property.
Yeah. For the record, Gabe is correct. David,
Let's
see what you say.
Are
you correct?
Where's your
David?
proof?
They call it, the CIA is calling it Operation Warm Milk with Cinnamon.
Yeah.
Keeping people drowsy.
Yeah. I not to jump into things too quickly, but I will say for anybody who lives outside of New York City, if you have the opportunity, I would highly recommend going on to any neighborhood of next door in New York City, particularly Bushwick, and looking at the various forums there, which always start either one of two ways. It's either A, I am a white person who moved here in the last 4 years, and I am kind of like gently trying to broach the fireworks issue that's happening right now and immediately getting shut down. Or it's B, like an old head who's lived here for like 40 years, and it's just sort of like, this is what we do. We party in Bushwick. And it's always this real, like, kind of like back and forth between gentrifiers and like OG, like people who have been living here. And then every once in a while, somebody's like, I've also been living here for 30 years. And there is more fireworks than normal. It's very fun to watch.
This flashpoint in relations between the newcomers and the old guard is like the 2020 Spike Lee "Do the Right Thing" moment.
Yes,
right.
Very much so.
Only with a Tekashi 6ix9ine soundtrack, since we are in Bushwick.
Mm-hmm. Also, Gabe, I'm almost positive David froze. Yeah, he's so, look at him. He's so inquisitive.
So I'm going to take a picture of this David frozen because that is. Oh no!
He's gone.
He's back. He'll be back.
I'm gonna leave part of this in.
So what's the situation for you, Danny? I don't hear a lot of fireworks here in Punto Verde in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. It's pretty chill, to be honest.
Yeah, I think from what I can tell, it is a pretty big Bed-Stuy Bushwick situation right now, and I kind of like alluded to it earlier, but the main thing was first people were just sort of like, oh, it's like June, people are setting off a lot of fireworks, and then it turned into, hey, this is a lot of fireworks. And then all of, it got so accelerated that a lot of people, including like Black Lives Matter people, were just sort of like, this could be a psyop.
Is it Xi Ping? Is it China? Is China
Xi
trying to
Jinping?
sow? Yeah. Are we getting some
Discord?
discord sown by the Chinese government? What's happening here?
Are you just saying that because it's fireworks?
David, your internet is just so bad, and you never solve it. Now look at his face. He's all like, I mean, it's funny because it's like Xi Jinping via the teens in the local neighborhood, because the argument people are making is like, this is unusual because fireworks are expensive.
Yes.
And if there are people who don't have a lot of jobs, not to mention it's illegal to buy fireworks in New York City, then it's weird that even this amount like is getting in here.
Like, are people paying with their stimulus checks And is this also something where they're getting ordered through Amazon?
I don't think you can. I have to look into this. I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts right now. It is impossible to order, but it would be. I bet you can order. No, but you're shipping them, and anything that's like possibly combustible, like the United States Postal Service does not like dealing with that kind of stuff. Amazon.com. All right, let's see what do you think is going to happen when I put in fireworks?
I think it's going to say, we'll have a drone deliver them to you within 24 hours.
Okay, we go. Fireworks. Okay, so this is fun. Yeah, no, this is just I'm seeing a couple light bulbs that are sort of that kind of look like fireworks.
Yes.
I see there's some Gain fireworks in wash scent booster. So some weird. Yeah. Oh, there's a couple. Yeah, it's mostly lights. There's no way in hell you can buy actual fireworks. Confetti. David, I think I can see you again now.
Oh my God. Oh, guys, sorry. I was just lighting off some fireworks. I mean, sorry. I didn't light them all. Look, I am an outside agitator, just coming here to frame, young people who genuinely want to celebrate, the month, and I am here solely for the purpose, as elected by Antifa, to divide the proletariat. That's what I'm here for. I was directed by Jason the Duck, head of Antifa, to do this, to light off all the fireworks in Brooklyn, and I admit to that.
Wait, so what do you actually believe? Do you think what do you think it is? I want to know.
Why are there so many fireworks? I don't know, man. Like, people are pissed, and there's 45 million people unemployed, and then no one's got anything to do. Like, also, like, I don't know. I loved it. I went on the roof. I've gone on the roof a couple times in Bed-Stuy, and I see fireworks every night from every direction, and it's lovely.
Yeah, and if you don't feel like you're getting enough sleep, you can put earplugs in and put an eye mask on. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, it's fine. You live in a city. This is what cities do. They're loud sometimes.
No. Okay. All right, look, city, you are correct. Cities are loud. And I want to say, regardless of if this is a psyop, regardless if this is just teens, I'm going to say it. Fireworks are fucking stupid. All right? Go home. Go home. What is this? 2000 BC? What this isn't like when China made them. This isn't when China made fireworks and it was like the peak of technological like expression. This is literally this shit has not advanced one cent since like 1700. All right?
I say that every July 4th. Every July
shit is stupid.
The biggest advance in fireworks on July 4th was the smiley face fireworks.
No,
dude,
fireworks are still good for some purposes. Like, fireworks are like the candy corn or Cracker Jack of candy. Like, they're not good all the time, and they're not as flashy as other candies, but they're still good sometimes in some places.
Right, like if you have to distract the zombies in a George Romero movie while you do a run on an abandoned Quickie Mart, you use
guys ever
the
shot
fireworks.
Roman candles at your friends? You guys have never shot Roman candles at your friends? That's fun as shit. When I was growing up, we had fireworks all on my block the entire day. We drove to Missouri, which was a block away from where I grew up. I grew up
Ozarks.
Not quite, like 20 minutes in Kansas City. Like, just like a different part of town of Kansas City that I was in. And we would drive there, get an insane amount of fireworks, light off. We put M80s inside a tin, and the lid of the tin shot up into the tree, and we didn't see it come down until the first snow. It was amazing. This is beautiful.
This is some Midwestern ass shit. All right, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, where you don't set off as much fireworks because you might start a fucking forest fire. All right.
Are you thinking the CIA is trying to start a forest fire in Bed-Stuy? No, You know
No,
that.
no, no. They're not. No, there is admittedly not enough trees for any sort of fire of note to take root
Yes.
in Bed-Stuy.
Yes.
Fireworks are the ultimate in Midwestern expressionism.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
What if the fireworks are actually supportive of the Black Lives Matter movement, and they're being sent to us from our comrades in other places to show support, and they're being sent, and because if they're all being sent to neighborhoods in like predominantly black neighborhoods, Bed-Stuy, Bushwick, etc., this is just they're just getting them from unknown allies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
like an
You
angel
ever thought about that?
investor.
Angel investor George Soros is maybe sending them the fireworks.
Ha.
You know,
You
In
know,
a good
what
way.
it is. The fact of the matter is that it doesn't really matter what anybody feels about the fireworks, because there is basically no answer to trying to stop them. Like, I thought about it, and I'm not gonna like make
you know what's
any
funny? You're like, it is
What?
impossible to understand where people are getting these fireworks, except for asking people. You
No,
could-
no, no, no,
you
no, no,
could
no.
Ask people
It's-
where they got their fireworks.
No, not that. Not that. It's impossible to like stop people from setting off fireworks once they've already started. Like, I thought about it, and the only way to actually stop fireworks is to be like a level 10 Grinch and just be like driving around in like a pickup truck with a bucket of water. So like anytime you see one get lit, you're just like, ah! And you run over there and then you dump the water on it. There's no way to stop it.
This is
So you kind
that
of
will
just
be Danny
yep.
in 10 years if he gets the right girlfriend. This is
just enabled.
you meet the right girl who's just cruel and callous and probably hot. Danny, that will be your life, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, it is really funny though, because a lot of the some of the stories are like people being like, yeah, I got it from a white guy in a van, and he sold them to me for real cheap.
It's the this is phase 2 of the pallet of bricks.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes, yeah.
Okay, before we get into that though, should we get started on the programming? So look, we had a pretty exciting couple days. I just want to
Very.
start off with the firing of the U.S. attorney in New York, which is something I think it's like the Trump did this in 2017 with Preet Bharara, who I think is insufferable. Just like personally, I'm sure he's like a nice guy, but his Twitter is kind of annoying. But like this happened again where the Southern District of New York, their attorney's office was investigating Trump for some of the like a hotel in Turkey, Rudy Giuliani's workings, and some more Michael Cohen stuff. And then William Barr, the Attorney General, just announces that this guy has resigned, Jeffrey Berman. And he's like,
Yeah.
I didn't resign.
It was the funniest shit.
Yeah.
He was like, he might as well have just gone on record as being like, I just want to announce that the attorney for the Southern District of New York City is a fucking bitch. That's it. And then he's like, I'm actually not a bitch.
For the record.
Well, he doesn't have the he tried to fire him, but he doesn't actually have the power to do that, which is what to me it's like shooting your shot when you don't have the caliber bullet to actually affect the change you want
I
to see.
think he had the ability to. It's just there's like the Senate Judiciary Committee said no. Is like I think
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like Gabe, effectively you're right. Like but what was like weird is that the order of operations, like Trump had already met with the chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission and played golf with him and like agreed that they were going to give him this job. And
right.
And then he had to like walk it back because they just did it stupid. They're stupid. I can't. I don't know what. Yeah.
Oh, I was just looking it up. The Senate Judiciary, This is like the goofiest like odd couple ever. The Republican of the Republicans, the chairman is Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham. He said no, baby.
He said no. But then of the Democratic members, the ranking member is Dianne Feinstein.
Yeah.
And then fucking Amy Klobuchar, she's one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Cory Booker, Ted Cruz is there. Man, Ben Sass, you got a lot of big names in the Senate Judiciary Committee. Look at that. Kamala Harris.
Yep. Well, because those are the people that are really there for Supreme Court nominations. So everyone wants to be on that. But
yeah.
This one was weird because usually the senators from New York basically consent to the hiring and firing of the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, which is just like, and so Lindsey Graham was like, we're going to abide by this principle. And basically Schumer was like, hell no. Because what happened was Barr and Trump wanted to fire this Joffrey and replace him with a Trump lackey, some guy who would be favorable. Oh, sorry, excuse me. We replace him with SEC Commissioner Jay Clayton, who
loves playing golf with Donald Trump.
Who loves playing golf with Donald Trump and has
allegedly
promulgated several, rules that have been favorable to the financial sector over the course of the past 3 or 4 years. And some people say he's independent, some people say he's a moderate, but who knows? I mean, whatever. But that guy was going to be the replacement. And needless to say, it is not clear whether he also, Jay Clayton has no experience as a prosecutor. This guy was just like, this is like the Southern District of New York attorney, U.S. attorney, is maybe one of the most powerful prosecutors in the country, right?
Yeah.
And it is not even to question like Jay Clayton's like character or like his like he's not a Rudy Giuliani like lackey to Trump, right? But he has no prosecutorial experience. This guy just wanted the job, and multiple sources have confirmed this because he's from New York and misses his family. Like,
oh my god,
he's like, I need a place. I want a job where I can walk around and get a decent slice.
Yeah,
can I get a slice?
Yeah, I don't, David. I don't know if this is an acceptable comparison, but as some of the listeners may have known, because I have announced it many times, I am indeed reading the audiobook for The Power Broker right now. I would say I'm a hearty 22 hours out of 66 hours in at this point.
Yeah, that's a deep listen. Deep listen, Dan.
Yeah,
it's a deep ass listen.
Do you have a highlighter for that listening? Are you taking mental notes?
No, but I think I'm gonna get the ebook after this, and then try to do a lot of Command Fs on it.
Nice.
For certain things. But the funny thing that sounds like to me is basically just like OG, old school Tammany Hall shit. And for people who don't know, Tammany Hall is basically this like political force within the Democrats in the mid 1800s, basically up to the 1940s, 50s ish, and their whole thing was just appointees or the thing where you give stuff to people like jobs and just handouts for what have you. Like there's a lot of stories basically where like the payroll was so much more and so unequal to the skills of the people who were in charge of things that like the guys who were in charge of like building the Triborough Bridge didn't have engineering degrees. Like they were just appointees because Tammany Hall's like, yeah, I'm giving it to this guy because he's my buddy who I drink with.
Yeah, sometimes you need to pick people who think outside the box. And you're like, what did this guy do before that? Well, he sold horseshoes to the Pony Express service. That's what he did.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Let's put him in charge of a massive technological and engineering wonder.
Yes, exactly.
Hopefully he'll build it.
He's got moxie.
That's like,
what more do you need?
That's like a kind of an interesting signature feature of the Trump administration is the sort of like glad handing and like all the like handoffs and appointments and stuff. Like all administrations do that, but like some of the like the judges that he's appointed, and the people who he's sort of like kept adjacent to him are like, when people tell that joke and they're like, you know what they call the person who is last in their class at medical school? Doctor. You know, like it's all
Right.
just a bunch of people who are like technically this thing, but shouldn't be in that position. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean the Trump administration. I mean, it's they call out. They just talk so much about how corrupt the institution is, but oftentimes what that is them just like deflecting their own naked corruption, or them just doing something that is like what was once like light and covert, and just doing it up front and overtly, and just playing into people's cynicism and being like, hey, at least I'm honest about it. But it's like, well, yes, but also you're like also much more flagrant about it as well.
Yeah. And it's like it's one of those things where like all the Democrats are always just sort of like, like they always like clutch their pearls
Right.
whenever it's so in their face.
Which is
but, like,
good. Like, I mean, the corruption is bad, right? Can we all agree on the scream that corruption is bad? But like, it's I don't know. I didn't mean to interrupt you in dating. Go ahead.
No, I mean that's all I was wondering was the follow up that happened to that, because that guy eventually did step down, right?
Right. But he got his dude. He got his successor, basically. Like Berman got his understudy to take his spot, not Clayton. So now this guy who's the chair of the SEC, the biggest financial regulator in the country, okay, he just has this weird cloud over him that's going to follow him for the rest of his career of like almost being the guy who obstructed Trump investigation stuff. And so I think he kind of fucked up his career, honestly. Like he could have
Which guy fucked up his career?
Jay Clayton, the chair of the SEC. I think
The guy who won. Yeah.
I think he easily could have been like so many of these never Trump Republicans, or these people who go in and out of the Trump administration, like John Bolton or whatever, where like you go in, you do your job, you walk out, you criticize, and you try and distance yourself from them and say that it was like not me. And it's this kind of way that they try and survive and maintain their career in polite society and try and be like, I did the best I could with the circumstances. And Jay Clayton has kind of lost his ability to do that because he just basically has gotten caught being a lackey.
Yes. Yeah. He's sort of do you guys recall the lady who George Bush tried to appoint to the Supreme Court in 2004?
Harriet Miers.
Like, remember? Yes, she's that. She is he. But now, now, you know, she is he.
So anyways, well, that's all fun. And, I don't like talking about Trump, but I just think it's hilarious. That's just like a ridiculous story. So another thing that happened, speaking of SEC, actually, we're going to look at the Department of Labor. This is going to get some like little strange, but basically the department, we talked about this in a previous episode, right? The SEC and the Department of Labor and basically the entire financial sector has been looking for ways to get normal people to be able to put their money into private equity. Okay?
It's the best. We all need to be able to do it.
Yeah.
There should be an app on my phone where every time I buy a smoothie, the 5 cents I should be getting back goes into a private equity fund.
Yeah.
I want to. I want the penny stocks version of that.
Yeah, I want to put like $5 into the complete destruction of Payless Shoe Source, and just lose those $5 basically.
Dude, it's like you're on like 9th Avenue and 14th Street, and somebody runs up to you with a clipboard, and they're just like, hey, hello, how's it going? Hey, do you know for the price of a latte, you can actually just never see that money again?
Yeah. So basically what happened was there was this letter that came out that the Department of Labor put out, and this made big headlines in the financial press. That's basically allowed for a specific retirement plan. So the SEC regulates all investment funds, stuff like that. But like a retirement plan, like a 401k or a pension, because those are tied to your employment, are actually regulated by the Department of Labor. Okay. So
yes, we've talked about that.
Yeah, and so your retirement fund is the thing that invests in a mutual fund. I know this is going to it sounds things on stacked on top of things, but sorry, your retirement plan, your 401k will invest in a mutual fund. Okay? So this is saying that the Department of Labor said your retirement plan, the Ponzi scheme 401k retirement plan, is allowed to invest some of it, like some small percentage of it in private equity. And
yes, correct.
So it is a big deal for some people. Some people don't think it's a big deal, but other people, because they've been trying to do this forever, and some people have already been getting away with it. But this is kind of one of the first times where the Department of Labor has said, yes, this specific retirement plan can do this. And now all of a sudden, retirement plans are allowed to do that. Again, another quick thing that I won't spend too much time on is that there's a difference between a 401k and a pension, right? So a pension is something that you get from a union. That's the easiest way to define it. And under the law, it has different things and rules associated with it. It's more stable, and in short, the employer, not the employee, takes the hit for bad performance. So if you have a pension plan and your pension plan invests in Payless Shoe Source or something like that, then
that's
your boss or your company is going to take the loss from your pension plan's performance. Whereas in a 401k plan, the employees take the loss.
Yeah.
Which is just, I mean, that's one of the many reasons why a pension plan is like a much better deal for workers than a 401k is. But basically, because of that, though, actually, pension plans have been allowed to invest in private equity for a while now. So this rule just said that for the first time ever, 401ks can actually invest in private equity, which is a big deal because pension plans are a very small percentage of retirement these days. Like most people just, what is union membership now in this country? 7%, 10%, something like that.
Yeah.
So no one's
really
getting
low.
pensions now. Everyone's doing the 401ks.
Everyone's doing them.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing them.
Yeah.
And now if the 401ks, the onus is on the workers if they don't make enough money.
Right.
You know, that now, so now we're all speeding into a future without seatbelts. We're all investing without helmets. There's no there's no insurance, there's no safety net.
Yes.
Yeah, because we've heard and we've gone over various stories like this in the past, and it should sort of be a familiar sentence.
Deregulation.
Yeah, deregulation. For us to hear something like, "Oh, the blah 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 pension, the teacher's pension, the steel workers' pension was invested in this or this or this, and it lost a lot of money, you know." But one of the aspects of that was happening in the background was like that the onus and the responsibility wasn't completely on the workers of it. Now it's just sort of like there's just no safety net.
Well,
you know,
there is like lawyers. So basically, there's still a fiduciary duty of the employer to make sure that the investment goes well. But basically, it's like it does this weird roundabout thing, okay, where instead of just saying, like in a pension plan, employers take the hit for bad performance. Now, because of crazy shit, it is that it falls on the employees, but if the employers mismanage, then the employees can sue their bosses. And
Yeah.
what that does is not only does that make it, you have to all of a sudden go through litigation. It becomes incredibly complicated and expensive and multi-year.
Mhm.
And now all of a sudden all these lawyers are making a bunch of money, right? Whereas, and that is, God bless the lawyers for doing what they can given the constraints, but they make attorney's fees off of this, which means they're getting a cut of what should have been your retirement plan in the first place had you just had a pension the whole time.
Yeah, it's definitely a system that is going to encourage people breaking shit first and then apologizing.
Yes. Yes.
There's gonna be a lot of, and I mean, I think that is that's the thing that makes people so frustrated about this stuff, because like it's like a lose-lose situation if it is your money in like any way. It's a lose situation because whether it's the banks or the lawyers or the private equity, they always have a head start. They always have a head start to do all that,
Right.
and then the onus is on you to be diligent and follow up with that, and like, I don't know, not fall into complete destitution over the course of like 1 to 5 years
Right.
while everything plays out, and then even if things turn out okay for you, then you might be in one of those goofy ass situations like Hong Kong Shanghai Bank, where after being convicted of like, sort of halfway laundering money for the mob, they only pay a measly like 2.1 billion, which is less than 1% or whatever of like their assets under management,
Right. And
so-
this is why I really loathe the idea of financial literacy as a concept, because that is putting the onus on the investor to have good performance, when it should be, the onus should be on the financial professional to make sure that you
Mhm.
have those returns, right? Like, there is not like the same calls for like for medical literacy. We just expect doctors to heal us.
Yeah,
you
dude.
you are supposed to ask the doctor if this is the right medicine for you, and then there's like the giant list of side effects at the bottom of every commercial
Right.
for bullshit products. So they are
Yeah.
trying.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you, and I think that big pharma would love it if we took all the blame.
Yeah.
If the
absolutely.
consumer took all the blame.
I mean,
Yeah.
that is the exact like analogy of this 401k stuff, which is like, yes, there is some side effects, and like, ask your financial professional if investing in this specific mutual fund is right for you. Like, when you get a 401k, actually, oftentimes what will happen is there will be a menu of things you can invest in, and they actually, your financial professional is obligated to like show you the menu, which is oftentimes very conflicted and is like owned by the financial advisor, or they have some stake in it, or they're getting some kickback for it, and then you choose among those, and it's the exact same thing. Like, talk to your doctor today if Lipitor is right for you, or talk to your doctor today if the Vanguard fixed income equity fund is right for you today. It's the exact same thing of just trying to put the onus on the individual to make the decision for the purposes of allowing further commodification and capitalizing, and just to allow the vultures to swoop in more.
Yeah, if anything, what this, it's like I think a year and a half ago, Trump was going on about how he loved how the tax return had gone from being like this big to being like this big.
Yeah.
Like, he was just like, I love it. It's so tiny. It's so good. I think that should happen, but for financial tools and regulations. Like, if you can't explain how this works in a Berenstein Bears book, fuck out of here.
I mean, this
Like,
is one of the many things that Trump does that is like, in theory, that sounds good if
Yeah.
it were actually helping the working class, but like,
Mhm.
it's not. Like once again, this whole like little like index card of tax returns would be beneficial to like regular Americans if that tax cut that Trump passed were actually helpful to regular Americans. But it's not. It's again like the aesthetics of populism with the actual consequences of just totally enriching, making the rich richer.
Yeah, it's beautiful diarrhea. You know, it's beautiful, but it's diarrhea. You know what I'm talking about?
So right after this study came out, right after this Department of Letter thing came out, a study came out from the University of Oxford that found that private equity funds have failed to outperform equity indexes over a 10-year period. Okay, so basically what that's saying is that if you just put your money in the S&P 500 and don't do anything to it, just put it in a regular index fund that tracks, NASDAQ or whatever.
What you're saying is you don't need more Goldberg style products to sell people a whole entree platter of investment tools.
Yeah, it performs better, or performs about the same as private equity does. And what the study found is that the estimated total performance-related fees collected by private equity funds is estimated to be $230 billion. Most of which goes to a relatively small number of individuals. Yeah. So the report also said that the number of private equity executives with personal fortunes of more than $2 billion has risen from 3 in 2005 to 22 for 10-year returns.
I hate that.
That could have been matched by an inexpensive index fund. This wealth transfer from several hundred million pension scheme members to a few thousand people working in private equity might be one of the largest in the history of modern finance.
Yeah, I mean, I know I hate to do the Occam's razor thing where people are like, "Hey, if it's this simple, then it must be the best option," or equating two things. But I mean, I think the way people try to obfuscate all this stuff and hide it, I mean, it is quite telling. You know,
Right.
I'm not saying every financial tool should be just this like it's A to B, you know, but they really are trying to hide it. You know, it's like, look, man, if I had one of those goddamn Rube Goldberg devices and it like put my toast in my goddamn toaster perfectly every time after knocking over a boot and like scaring a cat and like, buttered the bread perfectly every single time. Hell yeah, I'd have it. That sounds awesome. Unfortunately, though, 9 times out of 10, the boot flies through the wall, and then the peanut butter gets on the jam toast wrong. You know.
Yeah, buddy. And then when you actually do get your toasted piece of bread, you get a third of it is all you get in return because the rest of it goes to the guy that created the Rube Goldberg machine.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's exactly.
Yeah, there's
right.
just like like an executive on each part of the device who's just going like. And just like taking a bit out.
I mean, there's just a big fat finance guy who's been carb loading all day on your bread, baby.
I mean, not only would a 401k plan who invests in private equity have to pay fees to the private equity firm, they would probably also have to hire more financial advisors themselves in order to help choose which private equity fund to invest in. Because most of these people who manage 401ks just like work in HR. They're just like they don't have expertise in this sort of stuff. And so they're going to charge fees as well. Like you're exactly right that every single layer there's just another person taking a bite out of that. And those fees are coming out of your 401k.
Yeah, dude. Look, baby. I wish there was a cooler way to open a door other than a doorknob, but you know what? It's just not it's not what it is, you know. So just open that damn door and be done with it, you know.
But Danny, I've got this remote. It's a universal remote control that also works on your television, but it works on the rotating door that we now have installed in all of these buildings. And
Yes.
unfortunately, the lithium batteries that this remote control takes, they're specialized and they don't follow the standardized format of other batteries. These batteries only work for this remote. So
But it's super, but it's really cool. It's a really cool door and remote.
there's
And I swear it's not gonna decapitate anybody trying to go through the other doors if you just push it randomly. Like you're not killing people.
Anytime your remote or the door mechanisms break down, we actually have a certification program where there's a special
Yes.
mechanic that only works on those doors, and then another special mechanic that only works on those remote controls. But trust me, it's much sexier than the doorknob.
Yes, it's much better. Yeah, we're gonna have to see what happens with this one. This could be just sort of like a normal, like, oh, who knows what's gonna happen, or it could be like when they first came up with collateralized debt obligations in like the 1980s, like The Big Short, like that big fat guy was just like, hey, we could turn the housing market into a financial product. You know, who knows what could happen.
I think that unfortunately there's a very significant segment of the Democratic Party who is now, and that segment is in charge of the Democratic Party, arguably always has been, is very invested in certain sectors of the financial world and also in the like lawyers and like the legal sector. So I don't think this pushback is going to be that strong. I think that had like Hillary Clinton been elected president and she appointed a labor chief and a SEC commissioner, those people would not have pushed for this. But now that it's happened, I don't expect if Biden got elected, I don't expect Biden would reverse it. That's which is a consistent theme, frankly, with the Democratic Party.
Yeah, honestly, dude, I'm just like super glad that Nancy Pelosi is 80 years old and like she's like closer to death, you know, than like most people. Like I don't want to be excessively dark, but like, do you guys ever just think about how it's just like, oh yeah, the Democratic machine's never going to actually change anything? But I'm like, yeah, but Nancy Pelosi, like, she will die in the next 20 years. Like, it's very likely.
Yeah, but ghouls live forever, man. Henry Kissinger is still out here.
Still out there. He's still out there, dude.
He is. How actually? How
or
old do you think
Sheldon
he is?
Adelson's another one. Like these dudes are just like 1,000,000 years old, and they've all got these like cybernetic Wally, like lazy boys that they just float around in.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah. Life expectancy may be decreasing in the United States, but it is increasing for very, very, very wealthy people.
Dude. How old do you think Henry Kissinger is? I've got it in front of me.
I think he's 98 years old.
David, what do you think?
103.
Gabe, you were closest. He is 97. He's so old. Oh my God. That guy's such a fuck. Oh man, I hate him so much.
And he still looks hot as shit. God damn.
God damn.
Thick snack.
Yeah.
The thickest.
He's got some he looks like SpongeBob's ugly cousin. Do you guys remember those episodes? When SpongeBob's ugly cousin would show up to Bikini Bottom, and he was like awkward and like much poofier, and really liked like one really specific vegetable that SpongeBob hated.
He does kind of.
Yeah, you see it now. Danny just Googled it. He sees
a little bit. Kissinger's got a big he's got one of those big rectangular ass heads.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he does look like that. You are right.
Good. Great.
Stanley SquarePants.
So all this to say is that this has been happening with pensions for a while. Employers have been eating the fees, basically. I mean, I don't know whether the pension fund has been paying for the fees for these private equity funds, but they haven't been showing the returns that they should have been. and it is just going to be even more precarious for everyone else who does not have a pension fund. When this starts happening en masse. But speaking of pensions, I thought, I guess we thought we would talk about police unions, baby.
I love unions. I love a union. I
Yes.
love in RoboCop, the police have a union in RoboCop.
Yeah.
And OCP is trying to break the police union. They go on strike. They let the criminals take over for a little while. I don't know. I'm conflicted. I like unions. And then you say police union, and I hate police. But I like, how am I supposed to feel?
It's like jumbo
How am I
shrimp.
supposed to feel?
Yeah, David, correct me if I'm wrong here. I believe my understanding when it comes to unionisms is there's you can have things like an industrial union, a trade union, a craft union, and a employer union. So like an employer union isn't a union because it's just made by the company. An industrial union is like the IWW, which is everybody. And then you've kind of got those weird little two in the middle where a trade union is like a plumber or a person who does like a very specific task. Like maybe they work on
It kind of operates like a guild.
Yeah, something like that. But a craft union is like similar, but it's much more self-centered in the sense that it's not really in the service of like dissuading any kind of like capitalistic excess. Like it's really just more of a racket or a protection unit for like the worst offenders, you know, which is why like people always feel conflicted when they're like, I hate the subway, and but they have a union, and it's just sort of like the subway union. You could argue is more of a trade union, you know.
Well, I mean, you don't need to make it necessarily like do. So that's the thing. This is where it gets weird, right? Okay, because let's just like go through and talk about some of the like atrocities of police unions, right?
Yeah.
Like before we get into like all like what classification they're into, like they there's.
I mean, that sounds like a whole different episode to talk about every type of like do a Animal Kingdom version of unions. Let's focus on police unions today.
And it's important to talk about them like a little bit, but really like a cop union, for example, like there was this, this just happened. The new LAPD chief received a $1.27 million retirement payout before being rehired. So that was probably like further collective. Yeah.
What? That's like skipping from both sides, right?
Yeah, it is, right? So there are a lot of issues where cop unions can avoid misconduct per their collective bargaining agreement, right? Like in a collective bargaining agreement, you can really negotiate over anything, but some of the things that cop unions are allowed to do is to they can negotiate like if they're accused of a crime, they have like certain legal protections to like not speak about it for a few days. There are certain just like allowances that a police union does to sort of protect certain police misconduct, police brutality cases. There are policemen. There was a recent issue in New York City where the SBA made up a story about Shake Shack poisoning cops. That whole thing was just proven to just be completely false. Like they didn't even get that bad of diarrhea, I heard. Like it wasn't even like the whole thing was just bullshit.
And they just had to walk around their precinct all day being like, I think I got diarrhea from a milkshake.
I actually have a nice little quick little couple sentences from the Police a Field Guide book by David Correa and Tyler Wall about police unions. Police unionism represents a profound irony where trade unions emerged during the Industrial Revolution to defend the shared interest of workers. Modern police unions in the United States emerged in reaction to civil rights era organizing that highlighted the role of police and police violence in
Right.
defending racism and segregation. Police unions thus drew on the language of unionism, not as a means to stand in solidarity with other workers, but rather in order to give credibility to their efforts to protect police officers from police oversight and the criminal investigation of officer misconduct.
So it's weaponizing working class language and aesthetics for the purpose of oppression.
They don't even like I saw this tweet that was from a Minneapolis ward member. He basically he said, "I'm as pro-union as a person can be. The police federation should not be thought of as a union. They do not affiliate with the AFL-CIO. They don't walk picket lines in solidarity. I do, and I have never seen them on a line. Not once. They distort hard-earned labor laws to defend indefensible behaviors." In one example, the city recently lost an arbitration after Chief Arradondo fired a cop for beating someone while in handcuffs. Kroll, on behalf of rank-and-file MPD, pressed the case and won that officer's job back. Kroll, I think, is the head of the Minneapolis cop union. I mean, these are things where they are negotiating in collective bargaining agreements extrajudicial and extra legal procedures that no one should have. I mean, we can all say that like unions, you should be able to collectively bargain for whatever you want, but no one can bargain to, in your contract for you to be able to murder and get away with it. And I like, Danny, that you brought up the fact that cops operate as essentially antagonizers of the civil rights movements. I mean, I've seen several places that cops were initially created for the purposes of catching runaway slaves.
Yeah. It's a thing where like when somebody says like, did you know that cops were originally only created as slave wranglers? It's like
patrols.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's like you're right, but also like that's like one prong of like why the police are bad. Like you got to come at it from a multi-tiered prong, and if you say if you say it's only because of that, people are going to start contradicting you in certain ways. This is a quick little thing too. You mentioned about just getting to have like the pros of being a union with none of the cons. Police unions were exempted from Republican Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker's 2014 union busting law, which stripped public employees of collective bargaining rights. So like all the other unions gone except for fucking police,
Yeah.
Well, I like this idea that you never see cops on picket lines with their brothers and other unions.
Mm-hmm.
No, they straight up, and they don't. It's hard to explain to people because, like, especially coming from a New York perspective, there really is this sort of like taint on a lot of union activity. I mean, like, it's been thought of as like a extra legal affair, going back to the 50s and 60s. What was his fucking name? The guy who
Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah, Jimmy Hoffa is a very common reference to that. And it's like, okay, were there sanitation workers who were probably getting paid a little bit more or, had complete control over certain industry aspects? It's like, maybe, probably, there's a very high likelihood of that.
And that led to the destruction of unionism in America, right? Like,
yeah.
So there's something to be said of like, you want to root out malfeasance and bad behavior when it exists.
Mm-hmm.
But you also recognize that cops are inherently antagonistic to working class interests. They protect private property, oftentimes at the expense of protecting working people. So it's not just the unions themselves. It could be just the police are inherently corrupt. Right. And you don't want to use the malfeasance of police as an excuse to break up public sector unions. Right. Because basically, like what happened with Jimmy Hoffa was treated as this like he is the reason why all unions should end, and he was used as the scapegoat for attacking trade unions and basically building up all this public antagonism to unionism as a concept. And now we are where we are today. So there is a real, I must say, there is a concern about that. And I just wanted to talk about why I think cop unions are a little bit different with an analogy, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we talked about how cops were used to catch runaway slaves. Cops were also used in the early industrial revolution, actually to prevent strikes and to before
Strike
companies.
breaking.
Strike breaking.
That was a big,
Huge part of it.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, there were wars that were fought over strikes. You know, in Harlan County in Kentucky, there was this huge war where dozens of people were killed by the National Guard or by cops for striking, right? This is a known thing. And then what happened was managements just started hiring private security guards to guard their property and break up strikes.
The Pinkertons.
Pinkertons, right. So under the National Labor Relations Act, initially, guards, private security officers, let's call them what they are, right? Guards could unionize with the rest of the factory floor. Okay, so you could have it be some industrial floor where you have the garment workers, the coal miners, and the guards who are supposed to break up their strike unionized together. Okay, quickly, 12 years later, Congress realized that created a conflict of interest because when management tried to break up the strike, like they do by calling in the guards were also on strike, so they basically had no one to break up the strike. It was too.
Oh my God!
It was too
That's
powerful.
Crazy.
It was too.
Labor
powerful.
had the weapons.
Labor had. I mean, the power that the National Labor Relations Act had between 1935 and 1947, so much stronger than what it was from 1947 on. I mean, it just became. They got rid of the secondary boycott. I think was 47 or 56, where that got erased, and this changed as well. So now, with the amendment, it said that guards can unionize, but guards have to unionize separate from the rest of the union. They can't join the AFL-CIO or whatever, or they can't join the coal miners union. They have to do a separate guard union, and because it would prevent that sort of conflict of interest and allow management to utilize them as they see fit in breaking up a strike.
To co-opt them, to take over their interests and be like,
hey, buddy, look, hey, I'm Mr. Capitalism over here. Couldn't help but notice that you and your buddies, you're also working people too. So maybe I just pay you a little bit more, take a little bit more taxpayer money, give you some of this. Those other guys making boots and shit like that, don't you worry about them. You gotta fucking stomp the shit out of them when they start to stop working.
Right.
But otherwise, you'll be sitting pretty,
So it's not necessarily that if the teachers go on strike. I mean, so basically, what that said, now that's an analogy, right? But the important thing is that if you have the job of protecting private property, you fundamentally have slightly distinct or very distinct interests of the rest of the working class. That is just fundamentally, you operate differently. And it may be a Venn diagram in certain circumstances, but when push comes to shove, if your job is to protect private property, you have a different interest.
Well, it's like RoboCop, man. I mean, he's a machine and he's programmed with 4 directives, right? And so those directives are different than every other labor movement. Everyone else in labor is not protecting someone else's private property. They're looking out for each other or for more time off or for a more humane work environment. And cops are security guards and the tools of real estate developers. Yeah. So they can't, even when they are aligned with you, it's only a very temporary partnership
Right.
because
Dude.
it's like they're different animals, they're different creatures because they believe they have different values.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's I don't know if you guys have thought about this, but like I think over the past day I was like ruminating over the idea of what it means to be in a police union, like what the reality of that is. And also thinking about how, especially right now, what with the sort of like being right in the eye of the storm of the coronavirus, with the NBA also being slated to sort of like kind of like come back to finish out its season in Orlando,
Hmm.
Florida, and how for a while it was kind of up in the air over whether that happened or not. And one of the reasons it did kind of happen, or it was sort of up in the air like that, is because basketball players have a pretty strong union. They are hard to replace. They're
Yep.
incredibly specialized in what they do. And I think I don't know if I'm out of turn saying this, but it's just like a coal miners union has way more in common with the National Basketball Players Association union than any cop. It's like you're talking about
Right.
it's like yeah, like Damian Lillard is making like $20 million, but he and the guy who works and Eastern Kentucky, they're both trying to not be taken advantage of by people who are higher than them.
Right.
It's like like all those NBA owners, all those professional sports owners, it's like they specifically make it look and they want to impose on the public. Look at these extravagant lives that these people live. They're so insane. It's just sort of like, no, man, they have 10 years to make as much money as they possibly can. And literally 1 out of 1 million people get to do what they do. And they need as much protection as possible. Ergo, they are more in line with a coal miner than a cop ever
And
would
not
be.
every NBA player is a star. There are a lot of them who do not make as much money as LeBron or whoever. Like it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've seen before from our own show that just because you make all that money in a short amount of time, you don't keep it.
Right.
You can go bankrupt, you can get swindled. You
Right.
still have
Mhm.
there's no income coming after that income.
And if you get injured,
Yeah.
then you can get really. Think about all the football players who die so much earlier than everyone else in professional wrestling. Like the life expectancy is like in the 60s or 50s if you're a professional
Yeah.
wrestler. Just like
It's
really, really, really tough stuff. And if you don't have, I assume the NBA has negotiated some sort of, lifetime injury provision where if you get permanently injured, the NBA union will take care of you. And that's the thing is to like was the idea behind this LAPD chief. This sort of stuff happens in those provisions exist in cop unions as well. Right.
Right. So for people that haven't read about it, we had Mike in quotations Moore he just became police chief in LA,
Yeah.
and he was
Last
getting
year.
his pension simultaneously he was getting his pension for the last 5 years he was on duty, as well as his paycheck.
Right. And there's also I've read elsewhere that there are circumstances where if a cop gets injured on the job, that they can just instantly start collecting, like raking in like injury compensation fund.
yeah.
That is,
Yeah.
and they can ride that for the rest of their lives, basically. And for cops who do get, you get shot by a bank robber, right? Like that seems like a reasonable thing, but there's been like abuses of that. So like, I guess I bring that up is just because it's complicated, right? Like
It's complicated, but more than anything else, I think it's really I don't know, much in the same way that people are saying abolish the police instead of like reform the police to make them better in this specific way, because abolish the police or defund the police is a much more stronger message. The message to sort of take from this is that the police are a gang. They are
Right.
not a union, they are a gang. All right? unions have at least some animosity to the idea of like rampant laissez-faire capitalism just fucking everybody.
Right.
The police don't give a fuck. And
Right.
like dipshits, they don't even spend their money on cool shit. Like it's like you're not it's like these are people who are making sometimes six-figure things. And what do? They buy a fucking like a dumbass McMansion in fucking Hillsboro, Oregon, so that then they can come into Portland, Oregon every once in a while and beat somebody up,
Right.
It sucks.
Right.
That was a very specific take.
It's it
A
was
a very regional grievance against Oregon police.
No, let's here. I'll do this. How about this? This is for Gabe. This is okay. I'll do it for Gabe. Okay. Yeah, you got some dipshit who lives in McLean, Virginia, who drives into DC every day just so
There
they
you
can beat
go.
up some shithead. Or for David, it could be like you got some fucking loser living in Dupo, Illinois, who drives into St. Louis, Missouri, every once just to beat up some people in Ferguson.
Relatable.
Everyone from St. Louis. I want to point out, everyone from St. Louis is a police officer.
Yeah. All police stay.
I am from Kansas City for the 15,000th time that I've told you, Danny.
I know, but it's close enough. I'm going with close. Don't make me say no, because Wichita is like a like major city. I don't know. What's the
That's
what's a
right.
city
You don't
around
know.
Kansas?
That's right. You don't know, Danny. You don't.
There. I'll come up with one.
I just, I think that we try and think about really, solutions that get to the core of an issue on Ponzi scheme, right? But this one is weird. And I think that one easy solution is not just necessarily say, like, we're going to amend the labor laws to prevent cops from unionizing. I don't think cops should be allowed to have unions like every worker, but you should amend the labor laws that say a collective bargaining agreement cannot allow you to have different criminal procedure laws than everyone else. You cannot get away with murder under a collective bargaining agreement, right? That is an easy, very easy thing to say, right? You could also just defund the police. You can fire cops. There's no you don't need to change anything about unions to fire half the police force in New York City, and you wouldn't change anything about the SBA at all.
You've just regulated you're saying that certain behaviors are unacceptable regardless of if you're in a union or not, which would be the case in any other union.
Right.
If I worked at a factory and I decided to unload a full clip on an immigrant down the street because they were pulling out their wallet and I thought it was a gun, then you'd get fired and also arrested for murder.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a union anyone has an obligation to stop people from murder. Like it's, I don't feel like that's too controversial.
Yeah, David, you don't want some loser driving in from Piper or Grays Park or Edwardsville or Shawnee or North Kansas City or Parkville and then macing somebody in Kansas City, Kansas.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you feel seen?
Yeah. Do you feel?
I feel heard and seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can fire cops and look, they should get their severance. Like if you fired half the NYPD, I think that it's reasonable to say that New York City should uphold their severance obligations under the contract. Unless you're found guilty of committing gross misconduct or murder. These are things where you can lose your pension, lose your severance, and lose all your benefits from that sort of stuff because you're in jail, for example.
Yes. It's oh, what was I just gonna say? Nope. It's gone.
Yeah.
I think we should definitely touch, maybe on another episode, touch back on sort of the labor more. I'd love to hear more about unions and do a deeper exploration into them, and also maybe conflicting interests that certain unions have over others, and progressive causes in general.
Hell yeah, dude. Let's get
and this
intra
is-
left fighting, baby. That's my shit. I love it.
I remembered that just what I was gonna say as a nice little coda to everything. We're recording this in later June on the 22nd, and as of right now, one of the guys who shot Breonna Taylor, he's not fired, or no, he was not charged with anything. He was
Right.
merely fired,
Right.
and the other two, nothing's happened to them, and that I think should speak volumes to
Right.
what police unions can accomplish. You know,
Get rid of that shit. Like, cut that shit out. You should have you should have a cop union whose purpose is to get them better wages and get them better pensions. You know, like
Yeah.
I don't want a cop union getting robbed by private equity as much as I don't want anyone else to getting robbed by private equity. But cut those practices out that allow them to murder without getting away with it. Well, and get away with it. It's that's the easy shit.
yeah.
Word.
Anyway, I'm just gonna be here refurbishing my Singer antique sewing machine from 1937. It's gonna be tight. It's gonna be a fun time,
Yeah, I get it. So it was Henry Wallace's wife's sewing machine from the Great Depression. That's a
Yeah.
New Deal sewing machine, baby.
It is. This is a pre-World War II sewing machine.
Danny,
Yeah.
Danny, I'll buy that. I'll trade you that for a pair of earplugs.
Yeah.
Just one. I have one
Oh.
pair of earplugs, baby. I'll give you.
Yeah.
two. So I both sell the fireworks and the earplugs. That's my that's my game.
I used to wear earplugs when I slept because my old roommate in Portland had sleep apnea that was so bad that it sounded like he was dying every night. So I would be right next to his wall and just hear like,
Cool. So it trained you for a job. It trained you for a job at a hospice.
yeah, very much so.
You're just
Yeah.
ready to hear people's last gasps.
And then start. Oh God, yeah. Get a CPAP
right.
machine if you can, people.
All right,
well,
gentlemen.
On that, all right, guys. Everyone, good night. Have a good week. Be
Yeah.
safe.
I'll see you later. Get a CPAP machine.
Ciao.